What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. Today, we want to take a look at three underrated prospects that the New York Giants could take a look at in the upcoming 2023 NFL Draft. Now, we've done a lot of research on some of those top-end guys, those first-round prospects, the Quentin Johnstons, the Jordan Addisons of the world. We want to take a look at some guys that could be available on day 2, maybe day 3 if they fall far enough in the draft, and why those players, those mid-round players, might be main targets for the New York Giants. Now, a couple of these players, wide receivers, safeties, running backs, we know these are some positions that maybe the Giants don't need bona fide starters at, but they definitely do need some depth. So we're going to go ahead and dive into three underrated prospects that make sense for the Giants. But before we do that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on this topic down below as you watch along. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your thoughts on the first prospect that we're going to discuss, Rasheed Rice?
Well, I'm doing great, man. I hope you're doing the same. And as you've said, we've talked about a lot of the primary draft prospects in this class. You know, the Zay Flowers of the world, the Jordan Addisons, the whole bunch that are likely going in the first round. But there's a very real possibility the Giants wait until the second round to address this receiver position. Now, we're only going to talk about three guys today, but there are a lot of steals that could end up happening in this draft, and they always do. Late rounds, mid rounds, you always have to find some good value picks there. And the Giants could easily go with a cornerback in the first round. They could easily go with a defensive player. It doesn't have to be an offensive one. You know, there are a couple really good centers, interior offensive linemen they could target. But end of the day, we want to take a look at a receiver right now that isn't really a first-round target, but he is a day 2 target that could be a nice fit for this Giants team. He has really good size, really good frame, obviously really productive with SMU last year. And we're talking about Rasheed Rice. Rasheed Rice is a player that not many people are discussing as a potential solution for this Giants squad. Now, we all know about like the really potent offensive contributors that would be in the first round, but Rasheed Rice probably going to be a day 2 pick. He came in at the combine at 6'1", around 200 pounds. So he's got some good size. And if you look at the draft network, they have him at 6'3". So there are other platforms that have him different heights and whatnot. I don't know how you kind of get a height wrong, but at the combine, they have him at 6'1". So we're going to go with that one. But last year, he put up 1,355 yards on 96 receptions, 10 touchdowns with 14.1 yards per reception. Now, Rasheed Rice is from a spread offense, right? Similar to Jalen Hyatt in Tennessee. They come from the spread offense, so a lot of their routes are vertical. They don't run a very diverse route tree, so there are complications when you are scouting them and saying, okay, like how capable are they of translating to the NFL level immediately when they don't really have that broad array of routes to kind of watch the film and digest and understand. But we do know Rasheed Rice has good speed, at least his 40-yard dash, 4.5, so it's not like mind-blowing, but as Anthony will probably mention to you in a little bit, his 10-yard split was a lot better. So that's really exciting to see. His initial burst is one of the best of the wide receiver draft class, but his 40-yard dash certainly lands in, the mid-tier. But you look at a lot of great receivers among the NFL stars. You look at Devontae Adams, you look at Cooper Kupp. A lot of these guys didn't have tremendous 40-yard dash times, but they still are really freaking good. And you don't really need to be extremely fast to be a great receiver. You see like guys like Darius Slayton, really, really fast, good receiver, but he's not great. A lot of those wide receiver ones don't need to be super speed guys, and they can just be really great route runners and really good hands, and that makes up for a lot of the deficiencies they have in some athletic categories. But Rasheed Rice, really productive at MSU, really good size. They're saying he's going to translate really well. His ball skills are tremendous, really good hands, right? Like this is a player that doesn't drop the ball much. We talked about Zay Flowers. We talked about Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston. They all have one big flaw in common. They have some drops, and their drop problems have shown up in the past. Rasheed Rice doesn't have that. So there are some really... There are some good things there regarding his ball skills and the way he's able to corral the passes, and he's really strong at the point of attack. He can high point balls. I think that the consistency with his game is still a developing factor. I do think that there's a lot of room to grow, which is why I like Rasheed Rice. If the Giants were going to look for a day 2 wide receiver, he's someone with just wide receiver 1 upside, right? He's not a guy that's going to step in and be your wide receiver 1 immediately because he's coming from a very specific scheme, spread offense, where he needs to adjust and kind of learn the ways. But he's an alpha dog. He has a tough personality. He will run somebody over. Some people say he has kind of a CeeDee Lamb style to his game. He can play on the outside. Some people people have him compared to Chris Godwin, who plays mostly slot. He can play inside, he can play out. And that frame definitely gives him a lot of leeway in the way that he's utilized at the next level. And he's also able to make people miss in the open field. Aside from using that power and leverage that his frame provides, he's also very agile. When he has the ball in his hands, he can break tackles, he can make guys miss. That athleticism shows up pretty frequent. So at the Senior Bowl, he was pretty solid as well. Had a couple really nice reps. He was getting open all day on some of those practices. So this is a player who could be an impact starter on day one for the Giants. But his wide receiver one upside is what you're trying to get here in the second round. Like you look at Devontae Adams, a lot of those big players, second round picks. Cooper Kupp, not a first round pick. You look at some of these players and you're like, okay, you don't need to spend a 25th overall pick to find a wide receiver one. You just need to find a guy who has the capacity to be one over time that you can develop and refine. And the Giants have such a good coaching staff. That process is expedited for a lot of players. So Rasheed Rice, if they went with him on day two, I would understand why. I could totally get behind it. He's a player with a ton of upside, a lot of good speed, a lot of good athleticism, some consistency issues in some areas of his game, but there's nothing that can't be fixed, right? A lot of it's like a lack of sample size for a route tree, some just like physical stuff that, can be refined and fixed. And that's kind of what you're looking for in a receiver. If they have the fundamentals down, they have the primary like strengths down, a lot of the stuff is just, just tweaks that you have to make to their game, more experience in certain strategies and, utilized in certain ways. That's where you're going to see a lot of tremendous growth, and our coaching staff is good enough to get it out of a player like Rasheed Rice. So what are you thinking about him out of SMU, his frame, his style, and do you think he could be a good fit for the Giants on day two?
Yeah, I think he'd be a great fit for any team on day two because Rasheed Rice has a very translatable skill set, in my opinion. I think he has a very high floor. Now, his ceiling, we'll see how high it is because if you take a look at his relative athletic score, he is an elite athlete. There is no doubt about that. But where he does fall a little bit short is with the change of direction drills at the combine. And that kind of ties into his main weakness is that Rasheed Rice is not exactly the best route runner. He doesn't necessarily separate. He doesn't get himself wide open, but he gets open enough to where the ball in the right place, he can make the contested catch most times that he's targeted. So I think that's kind of the thing with Rasheed Rice is that you're not going to expect him to be one of those players like a Jordan Addison who kind of goes out there, breaks an ankle, and, gets himself open on a down-to-down basis. This isn't Rasheed Rice's game. Like, he has decent enough routes. He can run a full route tree and pretty much line up all over the offense, but where he really makes his money is when that ball comes in and he's able to high point it and make a contested grab. Now, a lot of Giants fans don't really like that right now. They're kind of lukewarm to the idea of a big body contested catch guy because we've gone to that well a couple times and we haven't necessarily found water. We found something else. When you're looking at Kenny Galladay, guys like that, who's supposed to be your big body outside receiver, a lot of Giants fans don't want to see the Giants go in that direction again. But I think that you should look at Rasheed Rice and kind of change your mind because he's just very, very good at what he does, and I think that his route running isn't that bad. It's not something that's really concerning. He's a decent enough route runner, and I think the versatility to line up as your X, as your Z, in the slot even, I've seen him make some great plays in the slot, go up the seam, make a contested grab and cover three. I really like his skill set, and I think it's very translatable to the NFL. So again, when you look at the relative athletic score and you look at his testing from the 2023 NFL Combine, that 10-yard split, as you mentioned, Alex, was 1.5 seconds with a 4.5 140-yard dash. Now, 1.5 is insanely fast for a 10-yard split. Let's compare that to someone like Sammy Watkins, okay? Because if you look at those two and their relative athletic scores, they're neck and neck, and they are very similar in all of the same drills. So I really like that pro comparison for Rasheed Rice. And Sammy Watkins, maybe he didn't pan out as well as people expected him to in the NFL, but he had himself a pretty decent and successful career as a wide receiver too. So maybe you can look at Rasheed Rice and say, in round two, that's better value than where Sammy Watkins went if you're looking at him as a wide receiver too. But let's talk about that 40-yard dash because Rasheed Rice ran an official 4.5 140-yard dash, while Sammy Watkins ran a 4.43. So Watkins quite a bit faster on the 40-yard dash. However, Watkins with a 1.55 10-yard split compared to a 1.5 10-yard split for Rasheed Rice. So when you're talking about acceleration, burst right off the line of scrimmage, getting to that top speed, Rasheed Rice is getting there almost immediately. Like, he is so fast off his line, and yes, maybe the long speed he kind of lacks there, long distance. If you're trying to throw him a 40-yard bomb downfield, maybe the cornerback gets there, but that's where his strength and his contested catch ability really comes into play. Now, another thing, though, to mention, kind of a negative for Rasheed Rice is that he was listed by some draft sites as being a 6'2", 6'3" receiver. He goes to the combine, he's actually only 6'1.5" inches. He's literally under 6'1", which is kind of interesting to note because he does play a lot bigger than his size would indicate. You know, that 6 foot, half an inch, he looks a lot bigger than that when you watch him play. And listen, he was a very productive player at SMU as well. I mean, I love this quote from him. This is the quote that I really like from Rasheed Rice. He said, "It's a 100-0 ball for me. I'm always making contested catches." Rasheed Rice on 50-50 balls. So he doesn't like to look at them as 50-50. He likes to look at them as 100-0. And honestly, when you watch him play, it's accurate. Every time the ball is around, he can go up there, he can make the catch, he can fight off the contact, fight through the contact, and I think that's really the main selling point for Rasheed Rice this last season. 96 receptions, 1,344 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He really did look like one of the best wide receiver prospects in the country. I like everything that he brings to the table, and if the Giants, let's say that they go with a center in round one or a cornerback in round one, a lot of Giants fans want to see that happen. They want them to go John Michael Schmitz or Joey Porter Jr. Maybe they will. But then when you get to round two, pick number 57, if the Giants want to address the wide receiver position there, I do think Rasheed Rice makes a lot of sense for really any team just because he has such a skill set that's well-rounded, and I think that he just has a very high floor. I can't see this kid not panning out, not being a good player in the NFL. Do I think that he's going to step in and immediately be a wide receiver one? Not necessarily, but I think that his skill set makes him so that he can be an instant impact player on day one as a rookie. So again, I really like Rasheed Rice, love the potential that he has, and think he makes a lot of sense for the Giants, but I will say the same about another player on the defensive side of the ball that I want to dive into. I've mentioned him a few times on this channel, but I want to give Alex a chance to really give his take on Jordan Battle, safety out of Alabama. Now, there's two safeties coming out of Alabama this year that are really, really good. Brian Branch, a projected first or second round pick, but then you have Jordan Battle, who might be third, fourth, maybe a fifth round pick. I've seen a very wide range of draft projections for Jordan Battle, but this is a player that I really like. He's a strong safety. He can get into the box, be one of your hybrid linebacker safety players, and he's friends with Xavier McKinney. They play Xbox together. They've already got that chemistry, and Jordan Battle has referred to McKinney as a mentor in the past. So when you look at that, I think that's your main selling point here. If you're sitting in those middle rounds, you're the Giants, you just lost Julian Love, you need to add some safety depth or look to find a legitimate starter in those middle rounds. And Jordan Battle, the way that he plays and the fact that he has such a good relationship with Xavier McKinney, I think that he could be a day one starter if you need him to be. So I really like Jordan Battle, but Alex, I want to get your take on this Alabama safety.
Look, the Giants went out and got Bobby McCain, right? He's a kind of an undersized strong safety. They let Julian Love go to Seattle. They need someone to fill that strong safety role. They need someone to compete there, right? Bobby McCain, decent player. Am I saying he's an immediate starter? Absolutely not. This could be an opportunity for them to go find someone like a Jordan Battle, who's a little bit more versatile. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical. He's a really high IQ player, and he's a good tackler, right? That's what you're looking for from the strong safety position. A good tackler who's going to step in, make some stops in the run, kind of limit some tight ends, limit some plays in coverage. Now, he's not known for his man-to-man coverage skills. He is a little bit inconsistent regarding that, but he's very physical. That's what, he kind of gives me like Landon Collins vibes in a way. Like, you're not going to trust him altogether as a guy in coverage, but he's very versatile, really smart, and he's physical as hell in the run game. So like, that's kind of where I'd see him kind of making an impact on this Giants team. You lose Julian Love, who's kind of able to cover, transition from the cornerback position and taking over a safety role. So I do like Jordan Battle. I think he would be a pretty solid player for the Giants. I just wonder that if, he can hold up in a man coverage scheme that Wink Martindale prefers, and if he can really hold his own, what are your thoughts about that? Because that could be a weakness that is exposed, specifically for the Giants on their defense.
No, see, I don't think that Jordan Battle has bad man coverage skills. I think that, it's not necessarily the top of this class. However, when you're talking about a box safety who's just getting down and covering some tight ends, I think that he can do that. Now, some of the top tier slot receivers in the NFL, I probably wouldn't trust Jordan Battle to cover those guys day one. But if you're talking about some of those tight ends, I think that you can move him into the box and see him find some success in that way. Now, one of the things that you will really like about Jordan Battle is the fact that he has the ability to line up all over the defense. Now, he had 574 snaps as a deep safety this past season. He also had 196 snaps in the box, as we were discussing, and 129 from the slot. He graded out the best in the box, but playing in the slot, playing in the box, kind of just moving around closer to the line of scrimmage than a deep safety normally would. That's where I think that he really strives. I think that Jordan Battle has that ability to kind of take some pressure off of Xavier McKinney, because Xavier McKinney, I think that the Giants were trying to move him into that deep free safety, single high safety role last year, but his injury, the kind of the personnel that they had out there, they had to kind of move him around. They put him into the box sometimes, maybe they didn't want to, but it's pretty clear that the Giants want him to be that ball hawk, that single high safety that just kind of goes sideline to sideline and gets a bunch of interceptions. That's going to be Xavier McKinney's role. So how do they allow him to play that role and not ask him to get into the box, guard tight ends, and guard slot receivers? Well, they need to find someone who can do those things. And Jordan Battle, having the physicality, having the size, speed combination to get into the box and do those things, opens things up for Xavier McKinney to play the role that he's most comfortable in and play the role that the New York Giants want him in. So that's kind of my selling point with Jordan Battle. And again, I think that the mentorship that's already built in there is also really valuable, just knowing that McKinney plays Xbox with Jordan Battle. They lived in the same dorm hall at Jordan Battle's freshman year. That connection is definitely something to take note of, especially when you're looking at how the Giants can kind of seamlessly put together a defense, that has the chemistry and continuity ready to go. And I think that Jordan Battle, as a rookie who might be starting, it definitely helps and makes things easier knowing that he has kind of like his best buddy on the opposite side of the field with him. So I really like that idea. So Alex, what are your thoughts on that? Kind of the mentorship that's already built in drafting one of Xavier McKinney's friends.
Well, you know what they say, if you got the chemistry on Call of Duty, you're easily translating to the NFL professional field. That's the the first step of establishing chemistry, is being in the war zone together and fighting off people. So I'll tell you what. The one thing I do like about Jordan Battle is that he's a very, very good athlete, right? I think he ranked third in athletic score among all players at the position in this draft, among safeties in this draft class. So the fact that he's ranking in the top 5 as an athlete at the position suggests that he's going to be versatile in the way that the Giants could theoretically use him. Now he's got decent size at 6'1" and 209 pounds, I believe. So this is a player with some size. He's got some physicality. He's smart. He's usually in the right place at the right time. And you want guys like that, just guys that find themselves into good positions and allows them to make plays. That's really what NFL is all about. If you're in the wrong spot, you're not making a play. But if you're around the football, you have a chance to make a play. And it ultimately boils down to how good are your fundamentals. Can your fundamentals hold up at the point of attack? And at times he misses tackles, and that's kind of one of his biggest inconsistencies, is down when he gets into the run, when he's trying to help in the run, he can miss tackles. That's kind of where he will find himself in trouble. But I do think that with his athleticism and with some good coaching, the Giants do have one of the best, secondary coaches in football, and Jerome Henderson. He will be under, good observation, good, perspective, and they will be able to help him refine those problems, because athletically, he's gifted. And if you have those qualities, it makes everything a little bit easier, and just good coaching will get the best out of him.
Yeah, and the next player that I want to discuss is Roshan Johnson out of Texas. Now, a lot of attention has been paid to a Texas running back not named Roshan Johnson. Bijan Robinson is a projected first-round pick. Now, people are comparing Bijan Robinson as being a similar level prospect to that of Saquon Barkley when Saquon Barkley was coming out of college, right? Because Bijan Robinson is a truly, truly special player. Now, how special he was did overshadow the fact that Texas had another really solid player in their backfield in Roshan Johnson. And I want to talk about why Roshan Johnson makes a lot of sense for the New York Giants, because when you look at what the Giants need to build in their backfield, right now they have a very elusive home run hitting running back in Saquon Barkley, playing on the franchise tag, mind you. So no long-term deal in place for Saquon Barkley, no deal even on the table, no offer on the table for Saquon Barkley. How long of a future does he have with the Giants? Well, we know that John Mara wants him to be a Giant for life. They're trying to get a deal done, but if it doesn't work out, they're also aware that the running back market is going in the opposite direction of where Saquon Barkley wants it to. Those are all things that John Mara has made abundantly clear in recent interviews. So why should the Giants look for running backs in the middle rounds? Well, first of all, because of the way that the running back market is moving, and second of all, because I do think that it's important to note that there were times down the stretch where Saquon Barkley kind of disappeared in some games. Now, whether that be because they stopped running the offense through him, or whether that be because he was hampered with minor injuries throughout the middle point of the season, it's worth noting that those things happened, and that they wouldn't happen if the Giants had a very reliable backup running back to take some pressure and some weight off of Saquon Barkley's shoulders. And Roshan Johnson has been playing that role for the last 4 years at Texas. He hasn't ever been a starting running back, but he's been a very, very good backup running back for the last 4 years. In fact, if you look at how productive he was over the last 4 seasons, he rushed for a total of 2,190 yards, 23 touchdowns across those 4 years on 392 attempts. Very small number of attempts for that many touchdowns and that many yards. He also added 56 receptions, 420 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the receiving department. But here's the thing that I really like about Roshan Johnson. Size, speed. He has the blend. He has so much strength. 6'2", 223 pounds. He's your bruiser. So you can go ahead, get Saquon Barkley as your fire, have Roshan Johnson as your ice, kind of fire and ice situation where you have a very elusive every down back, and then you just have Roshan Johnson. You need a touchdown from 3rd and 1, or you need to get a first down in short yardage situation. Put this 6'2", 223-pound monster in the backfield. Let him nail somebody, fall forward, and get that first down, get that tough yardage. That's what Roshan Johnson can do for your offense, tough yardage. And he's a projected 4th-round pick, so I don't think that it's too high of an investment for the New York Giants if they're looking at Roshan Johnson as a potential backup running back that can maybe one day take over as a future starter. I think a 4th-round pick makes a lot of sense for a developmental running back. And another stat that I really want to bring up, because I think this is really, really incredible, Roshan Johnson forced 45 missed tackles last season on only 94 attempts. 45 missed tackles on only 94 attempts. That's a missed tackle on almost one missed tackle on every 2 plays. The guy is insane. He always just runs people over. He had 448 career touches coming out of college, a very small number, meaning he has a long shelf life, a longer shelf life than most running backs. A lot of running backs in college, they're starters for 3 years. They've pretty much run themselves into the ground by the time they get to the NFL. That's why a lot of running backs don't have the longevity in the pros. But Roshan Johnson, only 448 career touches in college. He has a longer shelf life than most running backs. And again, he is a tackle breaker. He has an ability to create a lot of yards after contact. And I think those are the things that you want to look at from the running back position. If you're the Giants, get some guys in there who can be your bruisers, your short yardage situation guys. Another stat that I really like, Pro Football Focus described Johnson as one of the most powerful runners in the class, citing his average 4.28 yards after contact per rush. 4.28 yards after contact, not before, after contact. That means he's consistently running people over and gaining almost 5 yards a pop after getting hit. The guy is a beast. Again, I really like Roshan Johnson. I think he makes so much sense as a developmental back behind Saquon Barkley. But Alex, I'll let you give your take on this Texas running back.
Look, the reality is that Saquon Barkley needs a complement. You need someone with a big frame to take on the brunt of those big, short yardage carries. And Roshan Johnson is 6'2", 223 pounds. He can move, man. You talked about his athleticism. Not only is he just a powerful back, but he makes guys miss, as you said. So when you have that size, that size agility combination, now he's not going to be the most lateral agile. I can't even say it. Laterally agile. That makes sense, right? Laterally agile player. That makes sense. I'm going to go with that. Laterally agile player. Agility. I feel like I just went through a whole sequence there. But laterally agile player. He's not the most laterally agile player, but he is powerful, and he does make a lot of players miss when he's running downhill. So when you have a guy like that, like you said, the shelf life of him is going to be longer because he doesn't have the workload that a normal starting running back has over the course of a collegiate career. So that is a big bonus. And Saquon Barkley, as we know, we cannot give him 30 touches a game and depend on him. And most running backs are like that. This is not just Saquon Barkley. It's every running back. You cannot consistently give running backs 30 touches a game, 25 touches a game, and expect them to stay healthy. You need to have that 1-2 punch. You need to have that supplementary back. And Johnston is a really good option here to come in and help, take some of the slack away, take some of the pressure off of Saquon, be that kind of bulldozer, make some guys miss, and develop behind the scenes. And that patience and that vision that he acquires and that balance to his game, it's a really good thing to have. And, he's not the fastest guy in the world. A lot of people are comparing him to Latavius Murray, and that's a great combo. I would love to have a prime Latavius Murray on my team. He is tremendous. He was tremendous, rather. And he did a lot for them. He's really good around the end zone, too. If you have a short, 3rd and 1 on the goal line, Latavius Murray is punching it in. And he was really good for that Dallas team a couple years ago. So, and for the Saints as well, for what it's worth. If you could get a guy like that in Johnson who has those qualities, and you ask him to be that supplement, that backup to Saquon Barkley, maybe he develops really nicely and turns into a starter. And as you mentioned, the shelf life is there because he hasn't been beaten up over the course of 3 years as a starter. As a senior now, or was a senior. So he's going to the NFL with a fresh slate. He's healthy. He's good to go. He's probably got a lot of touches before he even sniffs, just physical degradation. So I do like this player a lot as a mid-round pick for the Giants. I do think that they should go out and find a running back in the mid-rounds to supplement Saquon Barkley. There's a lot of running backs in this draft class, a lot of starting level running backs in this draft class. This guy specifically is certainly intriguing to me. You look at guys like Breece Hall, very similar style in terms of downhill, can make guys miss, powerful, really good vision, really good balance. Like Breece Hall is not a lateral mover. He goes downhill. And he was so good for the Jets before he had that ACL tear, unfortunately. So Johnson could be someone that plays with that type of style. I don't think he's as fast as Breece Hall, but I do think he's got that balance and power. He's decent speed at a 4.58, 40-yard dash, so definitely has the qualities to be a very good running back. I would love to have him behind Saquon Barkley. Definitely a change of pace.
Yeah, I think that's your perfect change of pace back. That's the best way to describe Roshan Johnson when you're looking at how he might complement Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, again, being your very elusive receiving running back, but then Roshan Johnson being your big bruiser, short yardage situations. That's exactly where you want him on the field. And again, because he has such a longevity already built into his game with a lack of touches in college, he could eventually take over as your starting running back. You can kind of draft this kid in mind having the idea that he can be an impactful player in that backup kind of complementary role in his first couple seasons. But as Saquon Barkley begins to age, if you decide that it is time to move on after a season or three, you can go ahead and know that you have Roshan Johnson already in the fold who can kind of take over, be your starting running back, and kind of give you that long-term benefit as well. So that's why I really like Roshan Johnson, not just as a player that I think comes in, makes an impact year one. I think he has the long-term potential to be a legitimate starter on the New York Giants offense if they need him to be, and I really, really do get excited by that prospect. But I get excited by all of these prospects that we just mentioned and all of the other prospects that we have mentioned on the channel. And if you haven't seen all of our prospect breakdowns, go on to the channel, check them out. They're all here. And make sure if you are new to this channel, please subscribe and ring the bell so you do not miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on these prospects down below and make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. We will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.